Yo, yo, yo.
Are we in this bitch?
Yeah, we in it.
We got a real one today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, welcome to BarOne. You already know what it is. Do a quick shout out to ZenDen Sessions. ZenDen Sessions is a Brooklyn-based, COVID-safe outdoor live concert series. They provide meditations, wellness clinics, song competitions. Check out the link in the description to connect with ZenDen Sessions on Clubhouse and IG. Also catch the latest updates and stay tuned for more information on the next live event in April. We also want to take time to shout out Anthony Braun's Strategy Plus program. Success Sheets is an 8-week accountability planner that will help you stay focused, build effective habits, increase productivity, and help win the day. You can track your habits, set goals, and build effective timelines to help you accomplish what you know you can. Check out the link in the description and pick up your Success Sheets today. We got a real one today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Brooklyn-based entrepreneur, producer, engineer, rapper, porn star.
Mm-hmm. Everything.
Every day.
Everything.
Mr. Particular, Flossyvill.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me.
There we go. There we go.
You got to do that intro at my funeral.
Oh, word?
Facts.
That's crazy, man.
You got the honors. You got the honors.
I appreciate the you Googleizer. I'm the you Googleizer now. All right. Yo, so you got a new project out.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And what's crazy is it's March.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about it, you released your project on the 8th.
Yeah.
Biggie Smalls died on the 9th.
I know. It's crazy.
Right.
It's wild. The numerology, you know what's crazy about it all, right? Because MF Doom death was announced on the 31st of December, and that's when I dropped my Go Tanks video, right? And then he actually died on October 31st, and I dropped the track on October 31st as well. So the numbers is crazy. Then I seen Biggie die. I dropped my project, and I'm just basking in it. Then the next day I see the Biggie post. I'm like, oh shit, like I didn't even plan that. Like,
that's crazy. Speaking of Go Tanks, I have a guest.
Yes. Oh, it's lit.
Oh, it's lit. It's not Go Tanks, but it's close enough.
This Son Goku right here.
Right.
This young Goku.
So you was into that shit?
Yeah, I love Dragon Ball Z.
Bro, talk about it, man. That's that's the real shit.
Yo, the thing with not even just Dragon Ball Z, just anime in general, I love it because of the storytelling.
Right.
So it expands my imagination. It gives me more creativity. It gives me ideas. It gives me insight,
right,
life lessons. And it's not as saturated as American TV. I feel like it's more open and it's more spiritual. It's less boundaries, when it comes to the anime world. So
what's
that's
crazy?
A big inspiration.
It's great to, as you get older, you start to see the black community and the hip hop community embrace things that you felt like you couldn't embrace when you were a kid. Because for me, I was in the skateboarding, I was in the anime.
Nah, me too.
I was in that shit that it wasn't hip, right? But where we are now, it's like you can be anything that you want to be. You could still rap, you could still pursue your career in music, you could still be into the same shit. But also like a Pink Floyd, like we were talking about.
Yeah, facts.
Because it's all about creativity and it all comes together.
Nah, that's true, because the thing with like we made it hip because it's not even just like anime and shit. Even wearing Nike SBs and shit like that, I made shit like that cool. Like a lot of niggas in Brooklyn that know me could see this interview and they'll be like, nah, this nigga was on that wave. He was dressing like this before. Like it's not like it's something new, A lot of people fell into it because it got normalized, but I was telling you before, I'm always an outside of the box kind of person. So just because everyone has a popular belief, I don't follow it.
Right.
And I learned that at an early age. I kind of just created my own path,
Yeah.
And I feel like watching shit like Dragon Ball Z and other animes, it taught me a lot about branching out, teamwork, leadership, just all the little qualities. So I feel like before we was put in that box where you couldn't really talk about much. Like we'll talk about Street Fighter or video games because that was cool.
Right.
But certain shit just, it was like people fucked with it, but they kind of try to front like they didn't. Like they'll chill and act like they didn't know it. But now that it's more normalized, it's even women. A lot of women watch anime and now they could be open about, watching anime.
And that shit is sexy too.
It is. I love women that watch anime.
Right.
My girl watch anime all the time.
Yeah.
Like,
and I feel like with you being sort of out of the box and not doing the trend, or doing what everybody's doing, that reflects in your music too. Because especially with our generation, like I texted you before. I was like, "Yo, what are you into the drill shit? Are you into like what the kids are doing now?" But even the way that you rap, right, it's it's your style. Like you have such a unique voice, and you're not doing what rappers, especially in New York, are doing today.
Nah, that's a fact. That's a fact. Yeah. And it's crazy too, because I grew up around a lot of the rappers that are like big now. Like I done met a lot of them. I went to school with a lot of them, you know, back in the days. So to see what they're doing and what I'm doing is a beautiful thing, because everybody doing their own thing. And that's what Brooklyn music is all about. That's what New York hip hop to me was always about, originality.
Right.
It was always about finding the next thing. Like, oh, we gonna rap fast. Oh yeah, we gonna rap slow this year. Yo, we gonna do this. It was we always set the precedent for how people rap, how people viewed hip hop, you know? So I still stay true to that.
That's facts, man. So that kind of leads into what I wanted to talk about. You know, you're from Brooklyn. You are an artist. What would you say was your biggest influence growing up in hip hop and in music in general? For
hip hop, I always tell people, right, my top 3 is Big Pun, Biggie, Big L, right? And they always inspired me because it wasn't really always about the album sales with them. You never hear them really talk about, oh, I also this. It was always like, yo, I'm nicer than you, and I'm gonna tell you I'm gonna tell you to your face that I feel like I'm nicer than you, and I'm gonna explain it to you how. It was more about the craft, and then I gotta throw MF Doom in there because he was so outside the box.
He was on some other shit.
He was just on some
like
whole
a Tech
other
9
shit.
In a way, right? They just they don't.
Because I'm Flossy the villain. I got the villain shit from Doom. So that's how I got the whole, you know, the whole idea, the whole villain shit, because I was like, I fuck with that concept of creating a persona to kind of go against the mainstream, you feel me?
Right.
So I felt like I fell into that box with people like Biggie, Nas, Big Pun, Big L. They were always like some of the nicest artists, but they never really got their flowers the way they were supposed to, because they wasn't really they wasn't as much into like all the mainstream shit.
Right. And I was listening to your music, and I was like, damn, like your voice is so unique. And it sounds like a combination of a lot of different things. And it's funny you mentioned Big Pun, because like when you say it, I'm like, okay, that makes sense now. Because before I was like, he like has like a AZ type flow, but like some like Noriega Capone shit.
And you know, people always say I sound like Nas or...
Not exactly. That was another thing too, right? And you know, him being from Queens and you from Brooklyn, but it's still New York, so it's like there's an influence in everything.
Same thing with, I went to high school in Staten Island, so I actually met a lot of Wu-Tang. And one of my mentors is a dude named Kool Kim from the UMCs. So that was like the first hip hop group to blow up in Staten Island. They had #1 records on the Billboard, #1 album. So he's like a pioneer in hip hop on the low. So being around people like that, they also gave me that versatility, because my homies in Brooklyn, the way they rap and the way I rap is different. And that's because I went to school in Staten Island too. And in Staten Island, they was always really into like hardcore hip hop. Brooklyn, we kind of always went with the trend and with the swaggy, flashy rap. Right. And then SI, it was more gritty. It was like that gritty, grimy street project rap shit. Like that was the culture, you feel me? So I learned a lot from just being in Staten Island too, going to school out there.
Wow. Did Wu-Tang have any impact on you growing up too?
Hell yeah, yo. That's like that's probably like one of the next like big influences, because I met Redman. Even though Redman not Wu-Tang, I met Ghost, Mad Times, Raekwon, Capadonna, like ODB before he died, because they had this thing called Park Hill Day in Staten Island. So back in like the early 90s, when I was still living in Brooklyn, my peoples took us out there, and that's a moment I still remember to this day. Like everybody from the hood was out. They were signing CDs and cassettes and shit. Like they don't do shit like that no more, yo. Like that nostalgia not there no more.
Yeah. The New York music scene was something that was so appealing to me. Like, I grew up in the DMV, and literally the DMV. Like, I was born in Virginia. I lived in Maryland, lived in D.C. for a hot minute, and grew up in Maryland. But my family were immigrants. They came from Nigeria. So a lot of my musical influences was from that. Also go-go music, you know, and then, like, the Maryland rap scene. And then it was also like some metal scene too, which was dope. But it wasn't ever like that hustle feel where people are passing out CDs, or, you know, it's like a community rap battles and shit like that.
Yeah, like even now, I feel like we're so far removed from lyricism being important that we don't even create those type of platforms for MCs no more.
Right.
Like if you're not making swag rap, it's like nobody's really paying attention to you. That's why, like, even like Benny the Butcher and Freddie Gibbs and them, like, they get more homage now than they did before because it's not that much of that shit going on.
And he's from Buffalo, right?
Yeah.
So it's like a different scene in and of itself. Like
that Buffalo again. I went to Buffalo. One of my boys is up there, and it's a very gritty scene.
Right.
So when I listen to his music, being a Buffalo, it made me connect because I'm like, yo, that's really the life out there. It's like that gritty life. Yeah. So it reflects off of how people are living in Brooklyn and Harlem and in certain places. We live like a flashy lifestyle. So our music got to reflect that. That's why I balance it with being flossy and being the villain. Like, still got to be flashy because you got to appeal to the people, but then you still got to be gritty because that's just the essence to me of hip hop.
Right, that gritty shit. Yeah, Buffalo, I feel like it definitely educated me listening to somebody like Benny the Butcher because you kind of have this perception of upstate, right? It's like it's just white folks,
some
like,
rural shit going on.
But we always talk about like the white working class, but we never talk about the black working class and the gritty shit that goes on in the struggle of living in a rural area, being black too. Like it's cold as fuck still.
Nah, it's different. It's different.
There's still
a lot of racism.
People ain't working, less jobs and shit.
Yep.
So you just walk around like gritty, like it's like you adapt or you die.
Yo,
right?
That's a fact.
Yeah. So, yeah, man, I wanted to talk about. You have this song called "Missing," which I really like, and one of the lyrics you say, "Life's been a bitch, but loving it when she kiss you." So, give me examples of when life has been a bitch and when life has kissed you.
Like life being a bitch is like nah, but I mean if it's supposed to be Mother Nature, then I guess it was like a woman, I guess so. But what life being a bitch was more like it was a metaphor because like when something happens that you can't control, I feel like that's when life hits you. So an untimely death, that's life being a bitch. I done been in situations where I had people close to me pass, and then I feel like life is against me. You feel me? But then times when I feel like it's with me is like the birth of a baby or something. You feel me? Or even just falling into a big opportunity you didn't expect. I feel like that's life kissing you back because people always talk about life being a bitch, but people never talk about when life gives. You feel me? So I try to create a metaphor just to balance it out.
Yeah, learning how to be grateful and shit.
Yeah, you got to be grateful. You can't always just talk about like the negative, you know?
Yeah. So would you say that you're a positive rapper, a conscious rapper, swaggy rapper? Like
I would say I'm a balanced rapper. I'll just say you get a little bit of everything. Like that's what makes me unique because anybody that's trying to really rap, they fall into a box, and I really don't fall into a box because I got drill tracks, I got trap tracks, boom bap, I got R&B shit, rock shit. Like I experiment with a lot of different sounds just so I don't get put into a box because I learned from the mistakes of the other greats, because as great as a lot of greats were, it's certain things that people did where they stay stuck in their ways in their career and they didn't want to grow or expand. So I always try to keep people guessing. So my biggest thing is being unpredictable. I don't want you to guess my next line. I don't want you to know what the next beat is going to sound like. I just want you to go through the journey,
Yeah. And going through the journey, you produce yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, you collaborate with other people.
Yeah.
But talk about that creative process. Do you feel like it is easier than rapping? Is it harder? What are you like? What are some of the creative differences between like producing, engineering, and being a rapper as well?
All right, so like with rapping, for me, it's second nature. So mixing and all that shit, it became second nature after. But in the essence, if you lock me in a room with no beat, no nothing, no computer, I could write a whole album. You feel me? With no nothing. I could just think of a concept in my brain and I'll just write 10 songs or 10 verses out if I want to. Because I've done it before. I've been in places where I was kind of isolated or I didn't have the internet. And I'll just go on my mind and I'll just start creating a story or creating a world or something. And then with mixing, I feel like it's a balance because mixing has its struggles and rapping has its struggles. But I feel like I have ran into more issues in the mixing world. Like, there's a lot more anomalies in the mixing world. So since rapping is so second nature to me, the mixing part was more of a struggle because when I first learned how to mix, I had to go through the process of not really knowing what I was doing.
Right.
You know, so for the first like year I learned how to mix, it was like, yo, what next?
Right.
Excuse me. Yeah, the first year it was like, damn, like, I didn't think I would have to do this, you know? So once I was put in that position where I was like, damn, now I gotta actually, I'm gonna just learn how to do all this shit myself. It was just seeing your growth. So I had to listen to my imperfections to get better. So I went through a lot more walls with not being able to mix a track to my liking, because I'm always such a perfectionist,
Right.
more so than being able to write a verse that I like. I feel like I'll write a verse I like quicker than I'll mix a track in the way that I like it.
Right. It's kind of an interesting position that we put creatives in today, right? Because Noriega never really had to worry about mixing, right? But it's almost a blessing in a way because artists do have more control over their own careers, but then they're asked to be a lot more. And I think when people use the term independent, they don't really understand the concept of what all goes into that. Learning how to do stuff yourself, but also delegate to people and making connections and making sure, oh, you got your producer guy, you got your engineer guy, you got the guy to do your artwork, you got the guy to help you promote your tour, etc.
No, that's a fact. That's a fact.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's just weird how like the music industry has evolved. You know.
I mean, with the music industry now and before, it was more competitive before. So now that you have so much people behind the scenes pulling the strings, the competition factor is dead. Because you know this nigga not writing his rhymes. You know this nigga not producing his shit. Right. You know this nigga is just going in the studio and they throwing a song at him. And then he is the number one song tomorrow. Before, it was that element of surprise. Like, I always listen to old interviews and Big will drop a track and that shit is slapping and he like, damn, like I gotta try to drop a club banger too now. Like I gotta try to drop something that's hitting too. Like it was a competitive thing, or they'll drop some lyrical bars or they'll say something to diss somebody and somebody be like, yo, I gotta respond. It wasn't about, yo, let me go shoot this nigga, kill this nigga. It was like, nah, he's trying to test my skills. Like,
right.
Let me go get the pen, let me write something. Let me go respond. You know, that's what it was about because people loved it. It was the sport. Now it's just the business. So I look at, like, you know how now I say the rap game is like the crack game? I say it's like the NBA. So the NBA in the 90s was gritty. It was more real. Like, it was more real players. You know, it was more real people. But then as it became more of a business, it just became more puppets. It became more people that just played for a contract. They didn't play because they loved playing basketball. And I feel like it's the same thing with music because musicians was hungry. Now I feel like that hunger is kind of gone in a lot of musicians because you have so much access to being able to release music whenever you want. Before, if you wanted to rap, you kind of had to be at a certain level.
It's like following a formula where they see like somebody blow up, they see the type of music they make, the type of clothes they wear, and they're like, oh, if I want to get money,
I'll just do the same thing.
Just do the same thing, which is like hustle in nature. But when it comes to the actual craft and the art of hip hop and what rap music is, it's disingenuous.
Yeah, that's why I always have debates about like people not writing their own shit. I feel like if you sing, not writing your own shit is cool, but if you want to be an MC or if you want to brag about how nice you are, you can't brag about something somebody else wrote. That's how I feel. If somebody else wrote it for you, don't come to me trying to brag about how your bars is this, that, and the third. If you're not actually writing it. I could say that because I sat and I write all my shit myself.
Right.
You know, so it's nothing wrong if people get help, but people are really getting songs just force fed to them.
Right. And it's funny because I feel like hip hop is the only genre where we place that responsibility, like when it comes to collaborating. You know what I mean? If you working at a label or publishing or whatever, you could look up a song and you could see how many writers are on that shit. Sometimes it's 2-3 writers. Sometimes 20. It's like 20-30 writers.
Like 30 writers on one track.
But what do you think it is about hip hop where like especially in country where like it's like 40 songwriters per track. What do you think it is about hip hop that's so unique where like country artists, they don't have to write anything. The fans won't care. They just like how good the music is.
They just want to hear how good the vocals are.
Right. Why are we so much more tougher on hip hop artists?
I feel like hip hop is it was more poetry. So I feel like if you're a great poet, you were known for writing your own thoughts. So I feel like since hip hop was so poetic and so political, it always had to feel authentic. So I feel like the only way we got authenticity was by that person writing it or freestyling it or performing it, because we knew at the end of the day, this was your thoughts. This is how you felt. Like a record label ain't give you this song and tell you to feel this way. You genuinely feel this way. Like when I listen to Nas, like One Love or any of these stories, I'm like, damn, like he sat and he wrote this. Like he sat and he thought this story out and he really put it together. He probably had help putting certain words or certain things together, but it's still his. He still wrote it, you know? So I'm not against people getting help, but in hip hop, it's our duty to liberate the people. It's our duty to educate the people. We in the main genre of music now where everyone's listening to what we're saying. So we could take this platform to really teach people something too, you feel me? So I feel like when you have somebody else doing it for you, your message might get lost because that might not be how you feel.
Right.
You're going to go perform a song that goes against your morals because someone wrote it for you and you know it's going to make you a lot of money.
Right. Like you could be in the, like there's a difference between writing somebody's shit or telling them, hey, you should pronounce that word a little bit better when you do the hook, or just put some inflection at the end of it because that'll sound better when you like put it like that. You know what I'm saying? There's a difference.
No, that's a fact.
Right. Did you see the Biggie documentary? The new
shit?
I
did.
Yeah, what did you think, man?
It was great. Like the perspective, I feel like they humanized them. Like it was about Christopher Wallace. Like we got to see his life and we got to understand him better as a person. Every time we see documentaries or things, they always show you the negative side, or they show you about his death or this, that, and the third. I feel like they gave you a better guideline of his life than the movie Notorious. They got more in depth. They got people from his neighborhood. They got childhood friends. We got to hear stories that we never heard, you know? So it made us understand him better as a person. So I feel like that was a beautiful documentary.
Yeah, it was interesting to see. And I also listened to an interview with Mr. C's. You know.
Oh, Mr. C.
Yeah. But it was funny because understanding what his contribution was, not only to hip hop but to Biggie's career, and then seeing Biggie growing up and how close all of this shit is. Like when you don't live in New York, you don't have a concept of how close these neighborhoods are, or when he says, "Oh yeah, we went down the block, we went to Clinton Hill and we was doing this," and
it's right there.
It's right there, bro.
You know, it's right around the corner.
Right.
Like 5 minutes away.
Yeah, so it was good to get that perspective on Biggie and just the historical factor of it.
Yeah, it's big because with a lot of us that grow up in Brooklyn, we don't just, our story ain't just in our hood. Like we got lives in other hoods. Like I used to chill on the Star right here on Troop and Hart and Marcy P's and all these other P's around here. And then I grew up in Crown Heights and I lived in Flatbush and Staten Island. I've been in the Bronx for a while. Like I've been to all these boroughs, Queens. So I got a life and a story in all these different places. Like I got love for all these boroughs because I really spent time in it, you know? And I feel like there's not a lot of people left that got that connection to the city. Everybody's more so trying to elevate as an artist, but they're not trying to make sure people know like, yo, I'm putting this part of my city on the map. Like I'm really paying homage to the people who did it before me, you know?
What do you say to the people that talk about New York as not being the centerpiece of hip hop anymore? It's more about the Atlantas, you know.
I don't know, man. I don't know, man. It's funny because I feel like everything recycles. So I feel like this isn't the first time people felt like New York wasn't on top. I feel like there was points back in the days where the West Coast artists was selling more records. Snoop, Dre, Pac, them niggas was selling more records than the East Coast artists. So that was a point where we could say, you know, the West Coast gangster rap or whatever was selling more. And then there was points where Pimp C, UGK, other artists from the South was outselling artists from the North. Like they started to get their wave. I don't feel like anything that started, it doesn't stay there. It's like, think about food. Like the top food, how could I put it? Like the top food places in the world, it changes every year.
Right.
So say Italy is the top place this year, and then it's France next year, and then it's gonna move around. So I feel like with anything you do, the power is always gonna shift and it's always gonna move around because you're bringing something to a new audience now, and they're gonna take it and they're gonna perceive it in a different way. So I feel like New York is always gonna be the epicenter. Like, you could say Atlanta is hot right now. You could say go to Atlanta. This is where you got to go to blow up. And you got to do shows in Atlanta. You got to do all the shit in Atlanta. And that's not true because there's way more connections to way more people just by being in New York. If you go to Atlanta, you're promoting your music to that audience. That's the audience that you're trying to grab. Just because you big in Atlanta, that don't mean you big in the rest of the world. So that it doesn't. This will always be the epicenter because even if you're running a business, you got to come to New York.
Right. Yeah, you can't skip New York.
How could you skip New York if you're running a business and you already here and you learn how to survive here already? So,
right. I think what it is too is. A lot of people feel jaded by how the New York music industry was, especially the radio stations. Like
very biased.
Back in the day, there's a lot of pay-for-play shit.
It's still like that.
It's still like that, you know.
It's worse now, shit.
I hear like stories of legendary radio DJs taking 10 racks to play for 2 spins.
Yeah.
You know.
That's a fact.
And that's it. So I feel like because of that, people are jaded and they don't want to give New York the flowers that it deserves because of the grimy shit. You know?
I feel like any music industry was like that. I feel like it was like that with rock and roll. It was like that with reggae. Look at what they did to all the soul artists. They robbed all of them out of their royalties, but we still listen to this music and we still love it. But a lot of those families ain't making no money off that music, and we bumping this shit, we sampling this shit, but yeah, it's going to a white person. You feel me?
That's crazy you say that because I was reading an article. Anita Baker, she is fighting for her masters right now, and she is telling people to not stream her shit. You know why that's important? Because before you had to go buy an album. Now all you got to do is stream it. So now the people who were getting robbed in these deals, they have less control now. So now the machine is pumping this music and they're placing it and shit and they're getting all these streams. And now this is why you see a lot of older artists, they're like, nah, like this got to stop. Maybe before when people were buying vinyls and CDs, once your time passed, it kind of passed. You wasn't just going to sell 1 million vinyls for a record that was old out of nowhere. Right.
That wasn't really happening often. Now you see songs from years ago blowing up or songs that weren't platinum or diamond. Now they going platinum, now they going diamond. So it's a different game. So the people back then, they're trying to step in to protect their intellectual property. Yeah,
and it's important because, we've been in a pandemic. When we talk about the impact on artists, that shit is heavy. And it's because I just pulled up this article. Basically, I was reading that the recorded music business saw revenues of $23 billion this year.
Yeah, I actually seen that article.
In the pandemic, which was a 7% jump from 2019, they made $1.5 billion more this year. But that's the recorded music industry. The live music industry, that actually is the one that's paying musicians. That's how they make a living, whether it be the artists themselves, if the label don't get a piece of that too. The drummer, the piano player, the MD, the dancers, all that shit. That's a whole industry. That industry suffered, but somehow the recorded music business still managed to make more money this year than in 2019.
Word.
Because it's publishing at the end of the day. That's what fuels it. That's what is able to give these labels the opportunity to take risk and to invest in new artists, which is a good thing. But how is it that the companies are benefiting more from the music than the actual musicians themselves?
Well, you got to look at it like we got to start looking at our music more like a business. So say your music was a business, right? And say somebody came up to you and they told you, yo, I want to give you $1 million you know, I want to give you $1 million, but I want 80% of your business. But I'll give you the $1 million upfront right now.
Right.
You feel me? Most people are gonna take it, but then there's other shit that comes with it. So now you gotta understand that when you take this money now and you give your business up, it might seem good at this time, but then 10 years later, your name is still being used and they making millions, billions of dollars, and you're not seeing nothing off of it.
Right.
And that's because we don't believe in our product enough. That's why we have to go to these people and we get them to basically rob us,
Right.
to show us like, yo, look at this. This was something golden. You just didn't know what to do with it.
Right.
You know, so then I feel like that's why a lot of people go to the music industries, because they feel like they could take this product that people ain't paying attention to and put their name on it, and you might have a better chance, which is it's fucked up, but that's how I go.
And there are some like independent labels out there that are doing the right thing. They're investing in artists without buying their soul, basically. But in general, right, you have labels throw 15 artists at the wall, for example. They probably spend $200 to, let's say, $500,000 per project. Out of those 15, maybe 2 blow up. So the math for the whole label is in the positives. Like if you have 15 artists, right? They all flop except 2 of them, but those 2 are Jay-Z and Eminem.
You good.
You just paid, your whole costs are paid for as a label. But the account on those individual artists are still in the red. So you as the label are profiting.
But the artist is fucked.
But the artist is fucked. And let's say I have a Jay-Z and you're not popping. Oh, but I need some more budget for his project. So guess what? I'm going to take that from your budget and I'm going to move it over here. So now not only are you in the hole for the advance we gave you, but we can't even invest in your project right now.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
That's the sad side of the game, man. That's the sad side of the game. That's why I made the type of project that I made. Like, I just made it, and I feel like it's 100% me. Nobody controlled it. Nobody curated it. You know, I feel like I did everything myself.
Right.
You know, I had help, but I get 75% out of everything, and that's because I put 75% of the work in, and most artists aren't willing to do that.
Right.
So they're willing to take the back end, which isn't bad for some people, because in the long run you might make more money off that 20% than you would have trying to get 100% by yourself.
Right.
But I'm thinking about long term. You feel me? Like when I have kids, I want to be able to pass these records to them. You know, and that because I'll look at it like a business. Like I love this.
It's a legacy.
It is a legacy because I always never wanted to look at this shit like a business. I always looked at it more as a hobby. I was like, oh yeah, this is something I like to do, and you know, it might make you a lot of money, but it's like, nah, this is something very lucrative. If you take this shit serious, you can make a lot of money. You could pass it on to your kids.
Right.
You could, you could spread knowledge, spread wealth, and that's the purpose. That's the goal in life.
And then if you treat it like a business too, you have to be willing to put the work in and also learn how to delegate for things that you're not good at. Because, you know, like a manager of a business, a CEO, he doesn't have his hand in every pocket of the business. He knows enough to hold you accountable. So, you know, if you are in a position to where you have an engineer and they're bullshitting you, being like, oh, yeah, bro, for some reason this mix is like, no, I know how, like, you got to do X, Y, Z.
I do it myself.
Right.
Like, I've done that. Like, I've had times where I sent it to an engineer, they don't mix it, and I just do it myself. I'll be like, you know what? That's why I learned how to do all this shit myself, because if this is a business, and I learned this, it's mad funny. I learned this from working. I used to do installation, and the boss I used to work for, he used to work, so he knew how to do installation. He was talented to the point where he could do a whole crib by himself, but he would break the work down so we could work, because you know we'll take more time to do the work, and he'll sit there and he'll mentor and like supervise us. And that taught me a lot early, because I haven't worked a 9 to 5 since like 2014. I've been decided like, yo, I don't want to work for nobody. I don't want nobody owning me, owning my shit. I made that conscious decision, and then I'm like, I'm going to figure out any other way to make it besides having to do this, right? And it's crazy to see him, like how his grind was. He'd get up 5 in the morning every morning, come to work with us, still got to go home, take care of his family. And I'm like, damn, I mean, I could do the same thing too. So now that I mix and do all this shit myself, I think of it like him. I could build a house by myself. But the house is gonna come out better if I get the right help. You feel me? So I'll build as much of the house as I can by myself, and whatever else I need to pay somebody to do, or if a passerby comes along and they want to help me for free, then that's what happens. And that. I feel like that's what people are afraid of. People don't want to wait and see what happens. People are like, damn, if I do this shit myself, it might not come out as good. Like, I got to go to this person. I got to go to that person.
Yeah, man. For me, that's starting this podcast was, I empathize with that. I think it got to a point where I told so many people, yo, I'm going to start a podcast. I don't care, like, how perfect it is or not. I want to start a platform that spotlights a lot of the creatives in my life and also helps to give advice to up and coming creatives and artists.
That's a fact.
I just turned it on. I was like, okay, I have a plan. I'm just gonna go for it. Might not be perfect in the beginning, but this is something that I'm passionate about and something that I'm just gonna go for, because it gets to a point with your goals, you can always put excuses as to why you don't start something.
That's mad true.
You could always have barriers or roadblocks. Oh, I don't have an engineer. Oh, I don't have a studio. Oh, I don't know how to use this. Oh, I don't know how to use that.
No, that's a fact.
But bro, like, if you want to do it, you're gonna find a way to do it.
I feel that way too, because even when I was doing this project, I was making a bunch of excuses on like why shit wasn't getting done, and I'm like, yo, I just gotta do this shit myself. Like, it was a lot of shit that I just had to be like, yo. That's why it's good to at least know enough that you could take control, because I feel like more people are willing to help you when they see that you know what you're doing. Yep. Because I started mixing vocals, and then I didn't mix beats. I wasn't even making beats. The first thing I learned how to do outside of like not just rapping and playing instruments, like in the technical side, I used to work with DJ equipment, so I knew a lot about preamps, EQs, and stuff. So now when I started mixing music, I'm like, oh, this is like the equipment we used to use when we was doing parties and shit. Like, my family Jamaican, so we into all that shit, clashing with reggae sounds and shit like that. Like, we big on that shit. So I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, it's the same shit. Then something told me to just start mixing beats, because I used to wait for other people to mix beats, and I used to be like, nah, I'm gonna just do this shit myself. I started making beats, mixing beats. Everything just fell in one by one is because I was passionate about it. I took the time to read. I took the time to watch videos. People look at you and they swear that you just learned this shit by accident. It's like, it's not, it don't work like that. Like, it really don't. No, like, no lie, my nigga. It really don't. People look at everything I do and they try to downplay it. And it's like, I didn't learn this shit by accident. It's a reason why I learned this shit. And it's because I seen how serious other people take your shit. Nobody's going to take your own shit more serious than you. So that's what made me really say, you know what, I'm going to take control. If I didn't do everything I did, this project would have never came out. Or it would have never came out the way I wanted it to, because I'm such a perfectionist. If it was anything less of what I wanted, I wouldn't have released it.
Right. Wow. That's powerful, man. So, for the rapper who doesn't know how to do this shit, even learning how to, like, distribute your own music, what's your advice? What's step one? I know how to rap. I've been writing in my notebook. I got all the lyrics.
That sound like me in the beginning.
Right. I've been killing niggas in rap battles and shit, whatever. Like, so what's the next step?
All right, with rapping, I'll say a mentor is like probably the best lead you could get. And the reason I say that, and not everybody has access to a mentor, so I'm gonna go through a couple different options, because you could look at somebody online and get inspired by them. So if you get a mentor, someone who's been through it already, you're gonna learn from their mistakes. The first thing a mentor does is teaches you through their mistakes. So people that I know that mentored me, told me certain shit, the first thing they told me was, yo, I signed this contract and this happened. I didn't look over it and I did this and that. And that's something I probably wouldn't have known. People look at it all the time and they be like, oh man, how this person get robbed? Oh, how they do that? It's like, you've never been in these situations. You've never been in these label rooms and these meetings. So when you starting out, you want a mentor to let you know what you're about to run into. So a mentor will be the first person that will give you a little bit of guidance on like where to go. And outside of a mentor too, the next thing you need is, it don't even have to be a team. You just have to find people that believe in each other and get them to work together, right? So if you find somebody that he wants to make beats, You find somebody else, he wants to engineer. If you got the money and you the rapper, because honestly, if you're a rapper, you gotta have some little bit of type of money. You gotta have some type of hustle to you. So if I'm rapping, I come to you, I'm like, yo, Tim, I can rap. You want to mix? Monkeys want to make a beat. Yo, I got $1,000. I'm gonna buy this equipment so we could do this shit. Y'all gonna record me. That's it.
Right. Shout out to Monkeys too.
Yeah, shout out to Monkeys for real. That's why I brought them up for real.
Yeah, and yeah, it don't even have to be on like you work for me type shit.
Nah, we work for each other. We work together because
organically it's natural. Like we want to collaborate. Like we want to help each other out. We want to make art together. It's not on some I pay you XYZ or you got to be here at this.
Like it's a job or like it's a business. We treat it like out of love because it's teaching us all. It's like teaching us all a life skill at the same time.
Right.
You're gonna forever know how to mix because I had the money. You didn't have the money to do it. Now I put up the money for the equipment. You know how to mix. He know how to make beats now. Y'all know how to record me, or I learned how to record myself. So that means we all elevated, and that's what it's about. Even if we don't work together all the time or do music together, you branch off and do something different. I do. At the end of the day, it's about developing.
Right.
And people are like, I'll tell a lot of young artists, stop trying to jump ahead and work with these big producers and y'all want to dick ride these big name niggas because he worked with so-and-so. Work with the people that's around you. Right. Because a lot of niggas that chose to not work with me, they look stupid now because I'm further ahead than a lot of niggas. And I know a lot more on the technical side and on the musical side than them. And they could have got next to me and they could have learned all this shit too. Yeah. But they chose to want to work with other big producers or other niggas, and then they'd be like, oh yeah, I sent this nigga this shit and he ain't do this, he ain't do that.
And how many times in the rap game we see people that have these crazy features but then does nothing for them. They want to jump straight to the marketing shit or like collab with the big producers or the big artists, but they haven't worked on their craft yet. You have to work on your skills. You have to develop. Like that's step one.
Yeah, that's a fact.
If you don't have a product that people are gonna fuck with, what are you doing?
That's a fact.
Because they see examples of people that they perceive to not be good, right? So like, oh, I could do that too.
I feel like people want to jump straight to the top, and this is why I always tell people, like, even if I know somebody who niggas think your music is whack or whatever, if I fuck with you, I'ma still promote it. Cause you might not be that nice now, but what if in next year you the nicest nigga out because you took the time to put your shit out. You feel me? And most of the people that's talking shit won't even put out no music, so you can't even listen to those people half the time.
That's the whole concept of the NFT shit, right? And I've listened to some podcasts about it, reading some articles. Is if you take the painting example, right, with the NFTs.
Them shits is going for so much now.
But the thing is, it's like you might have an artist, like a painter, who these paint houses or the collectors, they'll invest in that artist. They'll pay you like $5,000 for your art. And then when you die, they can resell your shit for $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $4 million, but your estate can no longer participate in the sale of your product.
Damn, so you basically giving away your royalties.
Exactly. So NFTs is that way to create that digital receipt for when things are sold, right? Which allows artists to participate in that shit. Have you heard much about the NFT shit?
Yeah, I've been doing NBA Top Shot shit.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been fucking around with it. Monkeys was telling me about it and shit. So.
Yeah. He put us on, man.
Yeah, he definitely put us on. I ain't gonna front. He put us on. Shout out to Monk.
Right.
And
but you put him on to a healthier lifestyle.
Yeah, that's funny. It's weird because Monk is like such a highly spiritual person. Like anywhere he goes, people gravitate to his level of spirituality. But it's funny that like when he's going through shit or when certain shit is going on, he comes to me and it's like it makes me feel good when he comes to me. Like he tells me all the time, like, yo, you inspire me. I'm like, yo, honestly don't feel like I'm doing shit. Cause I'm not gonna lie, that's always been my thing. I'm such a perfectionist. It don't matter how much I'm doing, I never feel like I'm doing enough. And I feel like even the people in my life and the way I've been treated in a lot of situations, it always made me feel like, yo, you never doing enough. This isn't enough. And I'm like, yo, I'm doing a lot more than a lot of people. Like I'm doing a lot of shit by myself and I'm doing a good job at it. So I need people like him around because he's gonna constantly remind me of how well I'm doing. You feel me? And we're hard on each other. We tough on each other. So it's not just like we gonna pat you on the back for doing nothing. Like when he's slacking or I'm slacking, we gonna let each other know.
Yeah, it's a genuine friendship, and that's why I appreciate people like him. It's not he doesn't want anything from you. You know, it's we're here to make each other grow and make each other better.
You know, it's funny. My whole project was built off love. And I feel like that's why I was going to go. And I gave everybody their credit. Most of these rappers that do songs with producers and other writers or whatever, even though I didn't have no other writers, even though, you know, I had people produce beats for me and do other shit to help, I made sure they got their percentages. I made sure I got their information, put their names in, gave everyone their split. So if this makes $1 million, you getting your percentage that you earned because you put the work in. And my boy Cody, he produced Juice and Gotenks, and me and him just have a genuine relationship built off love. Then my boy Buku, he did Cali and Call It Quits. Me and him got a genuine relationship, and those are two producers that they worked with other big artists and, you know, other industry artists and labels and stuff. And then Monkeys did 2 beats for me. He did Been Grindin' and Style Free. We produced Style Free together. I produced Missing Myself. And that's it. That was a project. And then my boy Cash, another person met off love, genuine relationship. That's Johnny Lucid. He the one who produced Helicopter. So that whole project, that was people that I know. So people always ask me like, yo, where's this shit from? And I always had a blueprint in my mind. Like, yo, when I drop a project, I'm using all my producers. I'm not fucking with no YouTube producers, nothing. Like,
Did you work with Beat Street Groove on any of it?
No, with Beat Street, I gave them credit because JP recorded Cali for me. That's the only 2 songs I didn't record myself was Cali and Helicopter.
Okay.
JP recorded Cali and mixed it, and my boy Cash recorded Helicopter and mixed it, and he made the beat. So everything else I recorded myself, and then Pablo helped mix 2 records. He mixed Been Grindin', and he helped with what other track he helped with? Call It Quits.
Okay.
So I got them in there somehow too. So, you know, they ended up helping. And those are 2 other people that they helped me off genuine love. You feel me? So I feel like that energy is going to carry it through time. Because I feel like it's going to be a timeless project, you know? Because when I made it, I was like, I don't want it to be hot right now. I want it to be hot 10 years from now. Yeah. You feel me? I don't care about it being hot right this second because this momentary shit is... You know how they say, like, oh, the only thing is the present. So why would you want something that's only going to last a couple seconds, a couple minutes? Why not have something that's going to last an eternity? Right. You feel me? Like, we was talking about music from the 70s, 60s, 50s. Think about how much shit then happened, how much people evolved, how much music has evolved, but yet we still listen to these songs. Right. You feel me? Wow. And because that shit travels through time, and I want my shit to travel through time. That's why when you listen to my project, it kind of evolves into like a newer sound. It goes from like the gritty boom bap sound, and then it evolved into like a bigger picture. That's why I want to do like a visual movie for all the songs, so I can kind of show like the evolution of hip hop, you know, of New York hip hop especially, because that's what really inspired most of the project.
Wow. And what you said about the project lasting through time, I feel like that's the message we need to start spreading. You know, a lot of the old heads criticize new hip hop, but the thing is, at the end of the day, the cream is going to rise to the top.
Always.
Somebody might have a hot second, but I guarantee you when I'm 80, 90 years old, I'm still going to be listening to Prince. Still going to be listening to Michael Jackson.
You are.
You know what I'm saying?
You definitely are.
The people that you perceive as not being talented, it'll prove itself. You know what I'm saying? Like, and the things that are talented, we're still going to be listening to.
I agree with that because even people who've been through like scandals and shit like that, their music is still being played, and that's because people don't care. They like music is a different vibe, it's a different feeling, like it's unmatched. That's why I'm so passionate about it, because I know the impact that it's gonna have on people. Even more so with not even just with like me being plant-based for all these years and promoting a different type of lifestyle. I also elevated a lot of people musically. There's a lot of people who see me doing my thing and they like, oh, if you could do it, I could do it. And I don't know why people hate that mentality. I love that mentality. I love being able to just teach a person how to do something by showing them, not by telling them. I don't like to tell people how to do shit because I didn't fully make it where I need to make it. So I can't give you a blueprint to success because I'm not fully successful yet. So I could tell you, yo, get this mic, get this interface, get this laptop, buy these plugins. Right. And then watch these YouTube videos, read these books. And then you could do what you want with that information after that. You feel me? And I like to be able to, for a person to come through and see me in my element and they're like, damn, I want to record. And I'll be like, yeah, just buy the shit. Like, do what I did. Just save your money up, buy equipment. If you can't get the best equipment, start off somewhere. I started off using like a dynamic mic and Focusrite and some other shit. Like when I first started and I kept using that, I kept practicing with that. And then I ended up getting a better condenser mic. Now I got a better interface. Now I got better plugins. So if I never started, and this is what we was talking about earlier, people don't want to go through that early part of the journey. They just want to jump from not knowing nothing to just being a professional right away. And it doesn't work like that. It took me years to learn all the shit that I learned. Right. It's not like I just learned the shit overnight.
Damn, man, that was well said.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
So let's talk about the project a little bit more.
Yo, shout out for the CMOS too.
Yo, shout out to the CMOSers. We gonna get the sponsorship soon, the corporate sponsorships.
Nah, this is Natural Blends, and it's funny, my boy David, his pops on this restaurant. So if you ever in Brooklyn, Natural Blends, they got all the vegan good shit.
Yeah, and we could talk about some vegan shit some more. It's actually dope because I went in there and they, you know how the menu, they got the hot food menu, and it'll say like jerk chicken on it and pulled ribs, and then I just assumed that it was all meat.
And then there's like mushrooms or some shit.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's dope to be like, oh shit, like y'all actually have options. Like this is some cool shit. But yeah, so back to the project. One thing I noticed is, you know, you definitely have an old soul and you don't conform to the new flow that people normally do, especially in New York. Yeah. With like drill music and shit. Like you definitely have your own style. One thing I did notice is, it's interesting with the projects, you don't have any song that's over 3 minutes.
Nah, I don't.
Right. So what does that say? Like, is that something that you did intentionally?
Yeah, I definitely did that intentionally. It was funny because what year was it? Like, I think like 2014. 2014, I started experimenting with making shorter songs because I realized I was using so much lyricism that people's attention spans was getting shorter. So I found a way. I made a song that was like a minute and 30 seconds, right? That's the funny part, right? This is a funny ass story. I made a song that was a minute and 30 seconds. My cousin in Atlanta, he's connected with like QC Records, a bunch of other people down there, and he's in a session just chilling. He's playing music from a bunch of other artists, you know, like that vibe, like that southern shit, you know, the shit that they wanted, that he thought they wanted to hear. And they was like, nah. They was like, yo, play something different. And then he thought about me. And then I sent him the song, like a rough version of it. So he said he went to the last song I sent him. He clicked the shit and just played it for them. The song was only like a minute, 30 seconds. He said they had like an hour-long conversation. Like of them trying to convince him to sign with them. Like they was trying to get me to sign with them and shit. So they was trying to convince my cousin, like, yo, fly him down here. We could re-record this, master this, da-da-da-da. And then at that time, I was so stubborn about signing the deal. So my cousin already told them, like, nah, he's definitely not going to talk to y'all. He's not going to want to sign no papers, nothing. So it's funny when I realized that, I'm like, this shit got to be working. If out of all the songs I got, they just so happened to hear this minute and 30-second songs. It wasn't even like the type of vibe of what was going on at the time, but they were so interested in it because they say, yo, this is the direction that music is going in. And that's the key. You have to go in the direction that it's going in. Don't get stuck in what's going on right now. Try to be ahead of what's going on.
Right. So it's like a duality in a way. Like you want to adapt to the times because you don't want to be so stuck in your ways to where like you don't understand where music is now. But at the same time, you still want to be original. You still want to focus on your craft, and you still want to focus on the lyrics, you know.
Nah, that's a fact. That's a fact.
Yeah. One lyric you have on your project, this is from Ben Grinding. It says, used to work for DoorDash, but I started trapping because I heard it made more cash. So, you being an entrepreneur, can you talk about that part of your life? Can you talk about that time?
Yeah. Like, that was probably like the last legit like 9 to 5 type shit I did, but it wasn't really a 9 to 5. So I took the opportunity. I was like, oh shit, I could make money while I'm traveling, while I'm doing other shit. Like, while I was like, all right, bet. So fuck it, I'm gonna fuck with this shit. So I was working with like Postmates, DoorDash, all those other shits. I used to make good money doing the shit, but I noticed I was making more money off doing my own thing. Cause I always resell sneakers, I resell clothing, you know, a lot of shit like that. So I was looking at it, I'm like, yo, all the footwork I'm putting in, I sat and I calculated, cause I use my calculator a lot. Like, for some reason, I used to see a lot of like intelligent people I know always be in their calculators. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna start doing that. Like, since I was younger, so especially with the phone having a calculator, now I sat and I calculated how much money I made and how much hours it took. And I calculated how much time it took to get these pairs of sneakers or this Bape tee and how much I made back. And I'm like, this don't even make no sense. Why would I work 14 hours to make this when I could make that in an hour and a half hour doing this other shit? You feel me? Right. So it just made more sense. I'm like, you know what? I'd rather just do my own shit, take my own risk. You feel me?
Do you still resell sneakers?
Here and there. Yeah.
I'm a recent sneakerhead. And this is funny because growing up with a single mom, and she basically...
Me too.
She grew up in Nigeria, right? So she didn't really know how to, like, teach me about shit like that.
Yeah, it's funny. My mom is from Jamaica, and my mom grew up, I grew up like single mom too.
Right.
So that's a fact. But
yeah.
I had an older brother, so he was into all the shit. But I don't dress like my older brother. We have like completely opposite styles.
But at least like you had that influence, right?
Yeah.
Somewhat, right? I didn't have nobody. Like, I didn't have nobody that could really teach me about sneakers or about what to wear, what not to wear. It was some shit I had to figure out on my own. So if you look at pictures of me like 13, 14 years old, you're like, what the fuck is this nigga wearing? Like, I grew into it. I started, like, I got the StockX shit. Actually, before that, my mom, I remember this one time, I felt so bad because she was so excited because she had bought me a pair of sneakers from a flea market. And the shit was like...
It was fake or some shit.
It was like the little X with a point at the end of one of the... right? Because it looked like a Jordan.
Yeah,
right? So she thought she had caught me some Jordans.
She got you the Jordash.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, man, I've been downloading like StockX.
She got you the Michelle Jordans.
Yeah, the Jordanes.
The Jordanes over
No, this
there.
is from the country Jordan.
Yeah, that's some size shit. She got you some size shit, yeah.
But yeah, I got StockX a while back, and I've just been on the sneaker apps. I fuck with Kith heavy. I don't buy any of their sneakers, but like the Kith branded shit. But I buy all the other sneakers that they got there.
It's funny. I did a photo shoot with BBC for the Tribe Called Quest collab, and I was always connected with a lot of the people at Bape. Like, I feel like I'm just a good talker. I just know how to network. I know how to just fit in with people and not force myself into a situation. You feel me? So I got cool with a lot of the people in the fashion world. And I also learned a lot too because I didn't just grow up in Brooklyn. I went to high school in Staten Island too. So I learned a lot of different shit about fashion and style just by branching out. So it was always an influence somewhere. You could always probably see somebody on TV or something and you'd be like, you know what, I want to dress like this guy or like I want to look like that.
It is interesting though when you start to get into sneaker culture and then you see like your favorite rapper do a sneaker collab, but then you're like, oh, he just did it for a bag. Yeah. Versus the ones that actually put in the work to make a good quality sneaker. I just saw these Reeboxes, the future Reeboxes.
Oh,
with
yeah.
the heels on them.
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, what's going on?
I know, but they've been out for a while though.
Right.
Like they've been out, and I feel like Reebok is kind of that type of company where they'll throw you a bag to use your name, and then they'll just make some bullshit.
Right.
Like they notorious.
People will
for
buy
that.
it though. People
will buy it. But you know what's funny though? There's a lot of like the same way we talk about music evolving, that's how like fashion evolved too. Because if you look at where fashion is now and where it was before, it's like two completely different worlds. You could literally wear anything right now. Like, I'm very traditional with how I dress and how my swag is, but I see people pull off some shit. Like, people just be throwing anything on now, and that shit work for them. You feel me? So there's a lot of pros and cons to like how shit is changing, but there's a lot of good shit too. Like, it's like before, like we were saying about like wearing all the skateboarding shit, it was more integration we had to go through. Now it's like you could just make a decision on how you want your swag to be early. Like, you don't have to really figure it out late. Because I wasn't really always in the clothes like that. It's when I got older, I got a little bit more in the clothes. I was like, you know what? Let me get more into, you know, my appearance. Especially with becoming an MC, I'm like, that's important. You know, especially today, no matter how nice you are, I feel like you have to have some type of appearance. Even if you look crazy or you wear crazy shit or your hair look crazy, like you have to have some type of persona. So I figured out, like, you know what, I love clothing, I love fashion, I love the entrepreneurship of the resale game of what it was, you feel me? But now that I'm older, I just found other ways to make money. But I'm sitting on shit in the crib that if I wanted to one day, I could just sell some shit, you know? I look at it like a painting or something else, you know? It's just a piece of history.
But it's also interesting too how hip hop has evolved and that entrepreneurship within fashion. Some of these rappers now, it's not only if they're beefing, it's not even just about the rap, it's about the gear you're wearing too. With like Kanye and the Drake, you know, Adidas versus Nike, like that. This is the type of business that we're beefing about too, like on some level.
Yeah, it is, because it's the bragging rights, like who shit is doing the best. We didn't have ownership in these companies before, so now that we have, we still don't, but we're like one step closer, I guess, with a person like Kanye or people like Drake,
like Virgil Abloh,
or like a Virgil or Jeremy Lorenzo, and it's even people who just came up from the streets as designers, and these companies be like, yo, make a sneaker. But it's like they don't get the royalties and they don't get all that shit, but they still get a name for themselves. So it's beneficial to some people. But yeah, it's always been a competition between the brands. Like, that was always like the culture, especially in New York. It's always like, yo, you can't wear Nike and Adidas, or it's people that had like the Polo gang back in the days. They used to boost all the Polo gear, rock all the Polo and shit. Like, it was always a part of the culture. Like, what you wore really was everything almost. Like, you would look at a person, and just because he had fly shit on back in the days, it'll be like, oh, no, this nigga gotta be mad cool. Now you see people wearing fly shit, you like, damn, this nigga probably mad corny. Like, it don't even matter what the fuck niggas is wearing. So I feel like that's one of the best things that could have happened, is that it really don't matter what people are wearing no more.
Right. What did you hear the Drake 3-piece?
Nah, I heard a little bit of it, right? But I'm not going front. I really don't listen to Drake like that.
Oh, talk about it. Okay.
Nah, like, I don't have nothing against like him as an artist. I like If You're Reading This Is Too Late. I like some songs off like some of the recent shit he does, but he was just never an artist that I like fully got into. You know, people used to always like look at me like, oh, like you a Drake hater, and I'm like, yo, I love music, right? So I'm not gonna force myself to like something because all of y'all like it. Because if I don't listen to it, then that's just my choice. You feel me? And even though I do fuck with some of his older projects, it's not shit that I really listen to, because it's like everybody, you don't listen to everything, or you don't listen to everybody. Some people say they hate J. Cole. I think J. Cole is amazing, but there's niggas who hate that nigga, who thinks he's terrible. So you like, in music, you can never win. It's always gonna be somebody that's not really into your shit, no matter how great it is.
J. Cole is a good example, because every time I re-listen to J. Cole, I catch something new. And then when you try to talk about J. Cole to other people, because they love doing the Kendrick comparison. But
I don't know why.
Right, because it's completely
different. They're two completely different
But
artists.
at the same time, too, like, there's not too many people who want to smoke with J. Cole on just the lyrics.
Nah.
Because I be listening, I'm like, am I going crazy? Like, how? And not, I mean, he's one of the biggest rappers of all time, but it's also like people still deny, they don't want to give him his flowers because they want to talk about that he don't make hits, but I'm like, what are you
He
talking
do make hits.
Right.
He got hits.
And
But
all of Dreamville is like phenomenal. You know?
I feel like it's an acquired taste. When you got all the bullshit going on that's going on now, music like that isn't gonna sound the same to people. People's ears have changed sonically. People want to hear certain shit. People want to feel certain shit. You feel me?
Right. So New York hip hop in the last few years.
You don't smoke?
I'm good, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm good. You're good though. You're good though.
Cause it be weird smoking in front of people that don't smoke. I'm like, damn, you gonna let me enjoy all this weed?
No. New York hip hop in the last couple of years has its ups and downs, right? Do you feel like with the 6ix9ine shit, especially being from Brooklyn, do you feel like that is an accurate representation of the type of shit that's going on in Brooklyn?
Nah, not at all. Because it's not accurate in a sense, right? Because how can I explain it? The whole persona that he came out with, that's not who niggas in Brooklyn are. There's not niggas running around with rainbow hair and chains. That maybe that's what the world thinks now. It's funny that you said that to me. Yo, let me put this down. Yo. Now that you say this shit, is nah. Now that you say that, then that will have motherfuckers in the other parts of the world thinking that we running around with rainbow hair and all this crazy shit because they'll look at him as a representation of this shit, and it's not. And I know people overseas, and I tell them what's going on. I'm like, yo, that's not what it is. You feel me? Like, that's not what's going on. But anybody who, I guess, becomes the face of a city, they're not really always an accurate representation of who the people are.
Right.
Like, excuse me. Perfect example, like Drake. Drake isn't like everybody in Toronto. You feel me? He's not. He's like the ambassador. He's like the biggest person, but everybody in Toronto don't act like Drake. You feel me?
Right.
So, I feel like people have to take the facade off all of the rappers and everybody who's in the industry, and just stop looking at people as something more monumental than what they are. You feel me? Like, at the end of the day, we all human. Everybody bleed, everybody die. So it don't matter what point a person is at in their career. When you allow people to act a certain way, you give them a platform to want to keep doing it once you keep feeding into it. If you notice anybody who faded out, is because people stopped feeding into it. Now you got bots and streaming software and shit. So I could always make it look like people are watching me and commenting, even if they're not. Because that's just how fucked up reality is now. So I could go on Instagram and buy some bots and get 1 million views, hundreds and thousands of comments. Then real people might just jump in and start commenting, arguing with the bots. And I could just keep the facade going for as long as I can. You feel me? So It wasn't like that before. Like, anybody who was running with a facade, they got ran down on. They got checked. They got ran into, ran down on, stepped on, whatever. You feel me? But now it's just music. It's entertainment. Honestly, when it comes to him, people got to understand he's an entertainer.
Right.
Like, that's what he gets paid to do, to entertain people. That's why he gets on the internet, he starts trolling, because that's what they pay him to do. And the more people feed into him, the more money they're going to keep paying him to keep doing what he's doing.
Right. And it's funny in the media how there's this juxtaposition between like a 6ix9ine and a Bobby Shmurda. It's almost like the timing couldn't be more perfect. And I wonder if Bobby would have gotten his same flowers if there never was a 6ix9ine. Because it's like you don't know what real looks like until you see a version of it that's not. You know what I'm saying?
I feel like he still would have got his flowers because without them blowing up the way they blew up, they probably wouldn't have been a 6ix9ine. You feel me? Because when they came out with their whole wave, a lot of people followed the trend after. They was really, in terms of looking at Brooklyn, they was the niggas that got lit and opened up a door and opened up a lane for a lot of these other niggas, not even just in Brooklyn, across the city, because they had 2 Milli with Millie Rock, you had them out, you had a bunch of other artists out of Brooklyn started getting more spotlight because of these niggas, you feel me? And I don't feel like 6ix9ine being big in Brooklyn helped anybody out.
Right.
I feel like when people look at him, they don't look at Brooklyn. They look at him as an international nigga because that's really what he is. He was more of an international artist. Most of his shit was coming from overseas because that's what they fucked with him. So you could live here and be big somewhere else. That don't mean that people gonna show you that love out here.
Wow. Especially in New York.
Especially, it's hard to get love out here. If you could get love out here, people treat you like a king anywhere else you go.
So being from Brooklyn and being an artist, how do you feel when you see trends that come from New York start to spread and then like get like a Milli Rock? Like when you see something like that, does that make you feel a type of way?
Nah, that's good. That's what's supposed to happen. Like if it's not inspiring and influencing people, you're not doing the right thing. You feel me? So anything you doing, any dance you making, any song you making, it gotta inspire somebody else to want to do something. So I'm with that. I'm all for that. That's what happens, because I'm Jamaican, and in reggae culture, we started that whole rap battle shit because we used to do the clashes, and you had the live clashes, and they'll go boom, go back and forth, and then the people decide who won, who lost, and then that's the culture of what hip hop is now too. You feel me? And a lot of people don't think of it in that way. They think of hip hop like, oh yeah, this is just, we created this. We did create it, but it was created through disco, reggae, and through other influential genres. And that's what music is supposed to do. It's supposed to always influence the next thing that's coming out. Wow.
So who are some rappers coming out of New York or just in general that you fucking with now?
Yo, it's funny. I always say this, and people be like, damn, it's like people be thinking I'm lying. I'm like, nah, I'm not lying. Like, I don't listen to a lot of new music. I listen to a lot of older music. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. But out of artists that's from Brooklyn, I fuck with Sleepy Hollow, Chef G.
Chef G. I fuck with Chef.
I fuck with them too because they really rap. Like, they really spit balls. They really got good tracks, good beats, good production. They got the full package of rapping. It's not really antics for the rapping. And then, of course, you got Roddy Rebel, you got Bobby. And then you got to understand, too, even like Fabio Foreign, like a lot of people hate on his shit. I don't really listen to all his shit, but he got songs that go, like got songs that I bump.
They think because he sound like Pop Smoke.
Nah, Favi don't really sound like Pop Smoke. Favi got his own swag. Favi created a swag, you feel me? Even by making that big drip and just making certain songs, like he created a swag and a lane for a lot of Brooklyn artists. But with Brooklyn, you got to understand there's a lot of beef. So the fact that there's a lot of beef in Brooklyn, there's always politics to, oh, you can't listen to this nigga, can't listen to that nigga. I really don't listen to none of this shit. So I could really care less most of the time. But I do fuck with, like, out of all the Brooklyn artists in the past couple years, because Bobby and them been locked, I could say I've been listening to Sleepy Hollow, Chef G the most. Because I feel like they give you full bodies of work and they give you, like, real music, and I fuck with it.
Yeah, and it's interesting how young these kids are too, man. And I'm starting to get to that age where a lot of the rappers that I fuck with are younger than me.
I know, right?
And bringing it back full circle, Biggie was 25, I think, when he died.
Like around 26, I think.
Right. Tupac was 26, 20, I think.
Yeah.
I think he was 26. So it's like a flash, man. A flash in the pan. Like just these young kids who they come from these communities and are able to make something out of it. If you're not careful, they could be gone in an instant.
Nah, that's a fact. That's why we gotta cherish people while they here. You gotta give everybody their flowers while they alive.
Right. All right, man. Let's see if I got anything else. You hear about the Kirk Franklin shit?
Yeah. I heard a little bit about it.
Let me recap.
I ain't really getting into detail about it.
Yeah. So I try to do some current event shit, with music. Nothing really good. I mean, the Grammys, but whatever.
It's funny because through Clubhouse, I ended up meeting the head editor for the Shade Room, and the dude, he's mad cool. That dude is funny as hell. Like really? I be reading the captions because he got his own page, the Neighborhood Talk. The captions be taking me out. Like that nigga is. I could tell he was the brains behind all that shit going on there.
Right. He was actually I'm about to read is actually from the Shade Room. Well, it's basically, I'll sum it up with the Kirk Franklin shit. He basically has his son who's a 30-something-year-old man.
Yeah, I heard something like that.
He, I guess, has been having issues with his oldest son. The oldest son recorded a conversation between him and Kurt Franklin, and Kurt Franklin spazzing out, and then he posted that shit on Instagram.
Oh yeah, I seen that.
Right.
I didn't really listen to what was going on in the convo though.
Right. It was like Kurt Franklin was like, I'm gonna beat your ass, like all this crazy.
Yeah.
But you know what? I felt so conflicted because it's like when you grow up in a black home, bro.
Mm-hmm.
There's shit in there that I heard that I'm like,
that's regular.
And it's regular, right?
You know, you talking about mom told me she gonna kill me, like
exactly, bro.
Nigga, like.
But for you, especially like being black and you knowing that, and then you trying to air this shit out, like
nah, that's some white people shit.
Exactly, because you know that white people are gonna be like, oh my god,
yeah.
But
nah.
I'm just like, that's regular shit. And the fact that you're a 30-something-year-old man,
and not for nothing, that shit is regular for a lot of white people too.
Right.
Like no law, there's a lot of cultures is like that, like shit. Mm-hmm. But with the current events, everybody was talking about the Grammys,
right?
So how you feel about the whole like Grammy situation that's going on?
I mean, the fact that we're still giving Taylor Swift Grammys, but The Weeknd can't even get nominated.
Nah, yeah.
When he literally had the best album this year.
Yeah. It just shows you what's going on.
Yeah, like having to buy gifts for people. So like I'm not entirely sure how the process works. I'll be honest. I know that there are people who vote who are part of the actual recording
committee.
academy,
yeah.
But that's like thousands of people. Like when I went to school, some of my teachers were a part of the recording academy, and they could actually vote albums to be nominated for the Grammys. Mm-hmm. But after those people vote, it goes to like an actual like board who reviews the votes, and they're the ones that decide. And then you hear stories about, people sent like labels sending gifts to the Grammys.
Yeah,
basically kissing ass
just to butter them up.
Just to butter them up, right? So people shit on the Grammys, but it's also like, I think of a Quincy Jones, who I think is one at least the top. But he wasn't great because he won Grammys.
He was just great naturally.
The
Grammys didn't like make him great. He was great before all the Grammys.
And then one of my favorite artists, Ledisi, actually R&B artist, she just won her first Grammy. And
Nas won his first one too.
Nas won, which is crazy, and that kind of shows how
that just shows how ridiculous it is.
Because Ledisi, she was nominated like 11, 12 times, and Nas, that's one of the greatest.
You had Lil Baby, you had Roddy Rich, and I won't take away from Nas because he deserved it. So can't even be mad. He probably, man, look, he waited all them years for his shit. Right. Might as well let him rock with his shit while he got it.
Right. So let's wrap it up, man. You got a new project. What is the message behind this project?
This shit is just trying to just make people relive what hip hop was before all the money and all the politics and all the bullshit. Like what real hip hop is, that's all I'm about. I'm just about real music, but right now I'm focusing on hip hop, just making people hear that sound. I don't want it to die, so I'm trying to keep real shit alive while integrating the new shit that's going on with it.
Damn, integrating the new shit.
Yeah,
What's the name of the project?
Missing.
All right. Thank you for tuning into BarOne. Check out Flossy. Go get Missing right now, available on all DSPs. Let's go.
Villain. Dances, romances as I'm glancing through my stanzas. Trying to cure cancer, they ain't even have the answer. Niggas used to pour for purple in the finna. When I was in the Bahamas, all my niggas toting hammers. Growing up, my mama used to always teach me manners. Now I'm organized, I write my dreams in my planner. When I'm on top, I'm being seen like a banner. I wonder how the masses gon' receive what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm in the game, but motherfucker, I ain't playing. About to get it shaking like the shakers on the beat. About to spit at old flows, bring it back like beatbox. Used to be alright, now flows harder than sheetrock. When I'm in the paint